Today on the show, we're going to be reading the New 52's Teen Titans issue by issue. So, a lot of you probably know, a month ago, the Teen Titans ended with Teen Titans Annual number 3, which marks the end of the 4th run of the title, The Teen Titans. Personally, I think The Teen Titans is not newcomer friendly. Let me tell you why. In 2003, The Teen Titans was relaunched for the first time since the 90s, and it was a direct result of Teen Titans Young Justice Graduation Day. The chemistry that was in the beginning of the Teen Titans, and lasted the whole time really, was set in Teen Titans Young Justice Graduation Day. If you didn't read that, you wouldn't know what's going on. So it is important to read the previous run of the Titans to understand what's going on in the next run. It's always been that way. I've been an avid Teen Titans reader from a very young age. They were some of my first ever comics. So today, we're just gonna go through the entire New 52 Teen Titans together, so you can read the next set of Teen Titans comics when they come out. But before we get started, there are some important things that I have to say, some messages, so I hope you can understand that. First off, this video was made possible thanks to all the wonderful people that donate to my Patreon every month. I have loved working on this video so far. I'm sure editing it is going to be horrendous and I'm going to cry at some point, but after it's up, I'm sure it's going to be amazing, and I'm sure all of you are going to love this video. So thank you to all the people that donated to my Patreon for making this video possible. Next up, and this is a very important point, this video, this channel, is not an alternative to reading comics. You should still read comics, even if you watch these videos. Please go and support your local comic book shop, please support DC, please support Marvel, and if you don't have a local comic book shop, either read the comics online or use the links down below to mycomicshop.com, where you can buy all of the comics that we're going to be talking about in this video. So now onto this run of the Titans. First off, what did I think of it? It's very safe. It's a very safe run of the Titans, and it actually didn't do the job of the Teen Titans. The Teen Titans is supposed to focus on character interactions. That was this series' main criticism. It didn't focus on that enough, and that's why it wasn't selling well. It was very action-based, which you're not supposed to do in the Teen Titans. So let's get started. So straight away this series starts out with action. We've got Kid Flash, there's a fire, he's talking about how he's the new hero in town and how he's come to save the day, but he doesn't think before he acts. So he runs in the house, causes a backdraft, and this backdraft causes an explosion. Fortunately, no one other than him got hurt. However, because he is passed out elsewhere, everyone thinks that he just ran away instead of owning up to his actions, which is really sad. Then we cut to New York City, where we see Tim Drake looking snazzy as ever, watching all these news stories about teenage metahumans that are popping up all over the world, and none of them can really control their powers. And these heroes aren't limited to just Kid Flash. We have Kid Flash, Static, who I assume is Solstice, who I assume is Raven, Bunker, and Miss Martian, although Miss Martian never makes an appearance out of this in the New 52 so far. Then it's revealed people have broken into Tim's penthouse, and they are after him because they are a private corporation and Tim has been leaking their information on the internet because he believes they are the one kidnapping teenage metahumans. So this guy is all like, well, we're from nowhere and we're going to kill you unless you work for us. And Tim's all like, no, I loaded this place with explosives. You're either gonna run or die because see ya, and he jumps out the window. And as he jumps out the window, we see his giant red wings for the first time in this series. But he admits to himself that this is a much bigger task than he can handle on his own, so he's going to need help. And that's when we meet Cassie Sandsmark, who is 17 in this incarnation. It's important to take note of her age because the Teen Titans are very rarely the Teen Titans. They're usually the late teens to early 20s Titans. Then a policeman comes over to arrest Cassie, but it turns out that this policeman is actually an agent of Nowhere, and he is there to capture Cassie, but Tim comes along and takes down this police officer. Cassie claims not to be a metahuman, even though that she's displayed powers that were very similar to Wonder Woman's in the past. Because of this likeness to Wonder Woman, she has been given the nickname Wonder Girl by the media. Then a helicopter comes along and starts shooting at the two of them, and Tim is like, okay, Wonder Girl, you're gonna have to start defending yourself because I can't help you right now. Cassie says, do not call me Wonder Girl, and she transforms and her outfit changes and she gains metahuman powers and takes down the helicopter. I do like this interaction with Cassie and Tim at the bottom of the page right here, because Tim's all like, oh, maybe we can do something amazing together, and Cassie's just like, you were homeschooled, weren't you? Meanwhile, elsewhere, a project called the Superboy is about to be released as a direct result of Cassie and Tim's actions. Then we go back to Bart. He's locked up somewhere. He doesn't know why or by who, but he's locked up nonetheless, and he's trying to figure a way out because he doesn't really know where he is at the moment, but he just wants out. And he's talking to the guy in the cell over whose name is Danny. Then we cut to Tim and Cassie eating, and Tim is very confused as to why Nowhere haven't come after Cassie again, even though it's very obvious as to where Cassie lives. I mean, they know who she is, so it's very easy to track down where she lives. They walk for a bit, basically recap the goings on, and then Cassie says, right, you can stay in my place for one night, but then you're out in the morning. Then we see Superboy. He is studying Cassie, and Nowhere have told him that if he brings in Cassie dead or alive, he will earn freedom. And one of the scientists actually says to the other scientist that Superboy is really unstable. He's really not ready to be released into the field. And the other scientist says that he doesn't care, which really is a very stupid move. Haven't they ever watched a movie? Back at Cassie's house, Tim is about to go to bed, and Cassie thanks him for everything that he did today. She says that he's a good guy, which makes Tim feel very, very down. I kind of like that they didn't write Cassie as being instantly attracted to Tim because he saved her life, because I really do hate the whole, you saved my life, I shall now thank you with my vagina thing. Like, I hate it, it's not good writing, so I'm happy that they didn't do it here. We see Tim in the next morning, and I actually do appreciate this shot of Tim here, because you really do see that he's just a short Batman. He has to be because of his line of work. You can't be like this skinny little twig and fight crime and expect not to die with no powers. It really does bother me when some artists do this type of artwork, but then they draw Robin as being skinny, because it just makes no sense. Like, this artwork borders on comics and realism, so I really like it in that respect, but because of that, you cannot draw Robin, Batman, any hero with no powers as skinny. Anyway, Tim is watching interviews, he's thinking about going to New York, but then he gets a lead on what he has to do next. So Tim was watching this interview with this girl about a creature called Skitter, so Tim goes up to this girl and is all like, look, I know you were lying in that interview. And the girl is like, can you just meet me in 5 minutes? Which means, yes, she was lying, so she's hiding something and she knows something about this Skitter. Turns out Skitter is actually this girl's twin sister. But the girl actually told some people from the government about Skitter, which means Nowhere were lying and they're getting involved and they're after Skitter, which means Tim obviously wants to be after Skitter as well. Then we see this big beefy guy wading through the sewers, he's after Skitter, and then Tim turns up and a fight breaks out, and it turns out this big beefy guy has a brother and they can use each other's bodies to teleport. Then the two brothers disappear to their third brother who's up ahead, and then we hear a giant scream, so Tim runs up ahead. Tim then finds Skitter, and Skitter begins to attack Tim. And Tim doesn't want to attack Skitter back because he doesn't want to hurt her. But fortunately, Cassie turns up and doesn't care, and she punches the hell out of Skitter. Then Cassie basically says, right, I'm done with this, bye, and leaves. Then we have Kid Flash breaking out of his cell because two prison wardens stupidly open his door. He's able to do his thing, take them down, and then he opens a door that says Solstice on it, and we meet our next member of the Titans. Then we have this step-by-step page, which is so much fun, of Kid Flash talking about how he's going to save Solstice. Solstice is so confused with this whole thing, but then they escape the complex. The two of them are running through the North Pole, and then Solstice is all like, can you run on pure ice? And Kid Flash is like, yeah, I can run on anything. And then he proceeds to fall off a mountain. Then we meet Flamboyant Mexican Dude. His character is a lot of fun, and he's one of a few characters that was specifically made for this run on the Titans. Remember when I said the Teen Titans' strong point was always their original characters? Skitter really didn't stay true to that, but Bunker definitely did. It's his first time leaving his village in Mexico and going to America, but he's not letting that stop him from enjoying himself, because he does have something big to do in America, but he's just merging his work with his play, which I think everyone should live to do. Then our new friend finds this giant cocoon and asks, what the hell is that? And a hobo says, I don't know, it was here when I got here, and scares our new friend. Then we see Cassie. She's broken into a hospital, she's kind of playing a game of nurse, and she is there to beat up one of the three brothers until she has all the information on Nowhere that she can get. It's also worth saying that the three brothers have been split across the west coast of the USA, so they can't teleport to one another anymore. Back with Solstice and Kid Flash, Solstice surprises Kid Flash with the ability to fly, so they're safe. But then Kid Flash asks her a lot of questions, which causes her to be overloaded and fall to pain, but not death. Back with Mr. Hobo and Flamboyant Mexican, Flamboyant Mexican says a line which I absolutely love, which is, "Thank you, Mr. Hobo, for not throwing me off this train onto my very cute butt." That line is hilarious. However, the hobo then points out that our new friend is very nicely dressed. He could have very easily afforded a ticket if he wanted one. This is where the hobo and our new friend come into confrontation, because the hobo's asking our friend a lot of questions, so our friend gets very defensive, and it turns out that our friend is actually a metahuman. And then it's revealed Mr. Hobo is not Mr. Hobo, but he's Tim Drake, and Tim Drake believes our new friend is working for Nowhere, even though our new friend has never heard of Nowhere. Then it turns out that our flamboyant Mexican friend is a huge fan of Red Robin's work, and he's so excited to meet him, and he's fanboying like nobody's business. Our friend is very insistent that he wants to join Tim Drake's team, but Tim says that it's not a team, it's teenage metahumans pooling their resources. So a team. Anyway, it turns out our friend's name is Miguel Jose Barragan. So Miguel asks about the cocoon again, and Tim says that it's not a cocoon, her name is Skitter, and she's sleeping. And then the train stops, and both Miguel and Tim take a peek outside of the train, and they see a town full of mind-controlled people. Bunker holds off all these mind-controlled people while Tim flies up to the highest peak of the town to find this little box that he believes is controlling everyone, and that's where he is attacked. It's also worth saying that Miguel does put on his superhero costume, and it asks that whenever he's wearing that costume, he is to be known as Bunker, not Miguel. But this machine basically tells Tim that it's its plan to enslave all of humanity, and to make sure its plans go uninterrupted, it wipes Tim's memory of this encounter. Then, upon Tim's return to the train, Tim says, yeah, everything's fine now, everything's cool, and Skitter has come out of her cocoon as Selene once again. Back at the North Pole, Kid Flash has somehow managed to find a street, and he wants to make it inside before it's too late, but then he blacks out. Now we're on issue number 4. Just to give you a reference of time, issue number 2, which was where we met Skitter, was based on the night before Halloween, and now we're on December 31st, which is obviously New Year's Eve. So we're in New York, and Cassie's making her way through all of these crowds, and she's in an outfit that really reminds me of Dazzler from the X-Men. Anyway, it turns out after she beat up one of those brothers, Nowhere started coming after her hardcore. However, it's a very specific person from Nowhere that's come after her. It's Superboy. Then we go across town a bit to Norflex Tower Penthouse, and Miguel is still really excited about everything. I mean, imagine coming from this tiny little Mexican village and then going to New York. Everything is totally different from what he's used to. Then Selene is there, and it's revealed that she's not exactly happy because she can't control her powers, she doesn't know what she's doing there, she really can't do anything and she can't be of any help, and she's feeling really sorry for herself. Tim then turns up and is a little bit insensitive, but I can understand why he does this. He basically says that Nowhere is still out there, they won't rest till Celine is either dead or under their control. So she has no time to be sitting around feeling sorry for herself. Honestly, that's a part of Tim's personality I did pick up while I was growing up. That was very much present in his Red Robin series, where he looks at the bigger picture and really doesn't have time for tiny things like emotions. Or more specifically, negative emotions. It's okay to feel happy emotions, but negative emotions do have a tendency to hold you back. Then the doorbell rings and it's revealed that Miguel actually ordered takeout earlier, but when he opens the door, it's not takeout. There's actually a street on this 30th floor penthouse, and Kid Flash and Solstice are on this street asking for help, and it turns out that Kid Flash is suffering from hypothermia. So all of our friends do their best to take care of him. Kid Flash runs about the house, gets every blanket for himself, and then collapses. So back in Times Square, Cassie and Superboy break out into a fight, and Cassie is not holding back, which she really shouldn't against someone called Superboy. He has super in his name. The downside to this is that the fight is being broadcast to the whole of America, and Cassie does point out to Superboy that he is fighting his own kind. He shouldn't be fighting teenage metahumans. That's disgusting. Then we go back to the penthouse and we have this interaction between Solstice and Miguel. Solstice basically says that yes, she's been changed physically by Nowhere, but she doesn't really mind because she believes that the universe never throws more at you than what you can handle. This next page I find so funny because of how I hear it in my head. So Tim and Bart are talking about where Bart comes from and how he got his powers, and Bart doesn't remember anything from prior to 6 months ago. Then Tim says to Bart, "We're going after Nowhere, are you in?" And Bart agrees. And then Tim says to Bart, "Are you wearing one of my sweatshirts?" And it's one of the most overly dramatic panels ever, and I love it because I really do hear it with like thunder going off in the background in my mind. Then Celine comes along and shows everyone the broadcast of Superboy and Wonder Girl's fight, so the Titans agree to go after Wonder Girl and Superboy and help Wonder Girl. Back at the fight, I do appreciate this fight scene. There are a lot in this run of the Teen Titans, too many I think, but I do appreciate this fight in particular because of the creativity of how Cassie uses her lasso. She's using it in ways that I've never even seen Wonder Woman use her lasso. Anyway, the fight goes wrong for Cassie, she's almost defeated, but then the Teen Titans are right behind Cassie, ready to back her up. Okay, so we're going to go over this fight very, very fast because we can't go over every fight scene in great detail. This video would be even longer than it's already going to be. First off, we have Bart trying to attack Superboy, but then Superboy moves Bart at the speed of thought because Superboy actually has tactile telekinesis. Bart can only move at the speed of light. The speed of thought is much faster than the speed of light in the DC universe. So this badly hurts Bart, and that will come into play in a little bit. Bart is then sent on a crashed collision course with a boat, so Solstice has to go after Bart and she has to split a boat in half to save Bart and all the people on the boat. The fight eventually gets to the point where Red Robin has to fight Superboy head on, and Red Robin is actually able to hold his own against Superboy. Again, that's just a testimony to how strong you have to be a member of the Bat family. You have to be able to take out a super, and you don't have any powers to back you up. You just have a high-tech suit that doesn't add to your strength whatsoever. But Superboy takes advantage of all the electronics on this suit because when Red Robin says to Superboy, "You know that Nowhere don't care about you, right?" Superboy doesn't want to hear it and shocks Red Robin to the point that he passes out. The fight continues until it's only Solstice and Superboy left. Solstice obviously knows more about Nowhere than anyone else on this scene. Solstice points out two very important things to Superboy. Number one, Nowhere do not care about Superboy. He'll be treated like every other teenage superhero in the end. And number two, he will have blood on his hands eventually. And when you have blood on your hands, you cannot take that back, which is a very important theme for this run on the Teen Titans. Superboy actually listens to Solstice, but he knows that this has to end with one of them being knocked out. So he walks up to her and headbutts her. Superboy then goes away and destroys Nowhere's monitoring van and basically tells them to find a new hunting dog because he's done working for them. meaning he now knows that Nowhere is no good. Then the police turn up, they're ready to take the Titans down for the destruction that they've caused to the city. They're ready to be arrested and shot and done horrible things done to them. But then who should turn up to save the day but Skitter? Cassie and Tim think that Skitter has lost control of her powers again, so they're ready to take Skitter down, but Miguel is like, no, there has to be a part of her that knows who she is. And he's right, because she then goes up to him and hugs him. Right as things are looking good for once, Bart's powers start to act funny, and Tim doesn't know what to do himself, but he knows someone who might be able to help. That someone being Virgil Hawkins. So you might know Virgil as Static, but in this incarnation he's actually working at Star Labs. So Virgil takes one look at Bart and says that Bart's molecular structure is falling apart. This basically means that if they don't find a cure very, very quickly, Bart will disappear into nothingness. A few floors below, there is actually a teenage metahuman captive at Star Labs, but he's a bad teenage metahuman because both Nowhere and the Titans couldn't use him. Number one, he can't be controlled, and number two, he doesn't care about regular people's lives, he just wants to kill for the sake of killing. So Solstice is kind of comforting Bart through this situation because Bart is now very, very scared, not only about the fact that he might die, but also about the fact that he doesn't know who he is. Then Tim taps on the window and says, okay, wrap it up, enough's enough. And he's being a little bit insensitive, and I will admit this is a trait of his I have picked up over the years, because I can be very insensitive at times myself. Elsewhere in the labs, Cassie is about to leave, but Miguel is all like, no, you have to stay, you're needed with the Titans. And it's quickly revealed that Cassie wasn't able to pick up on the fact that Miguel is gay, even though he's the biggest fruitcake I've ever seen in comics. I do like that Miguel is a slightly flamboyant gay, we hadn't really seen that before him, so I do really appreciate that. And then Skitter wanders off and goes missing, so Cassie and Miguel have to go and find Skitter. Back in the lab, it is revealed that Kid Flash is essentially vibrating to death, and they need to create something that will realign all of his molecules and stop him from vibrating. Turns out that Grimm took control of Skitter and used her to try and break free, but now Grimm wants to kill Cassie and Bunker. Grimm's power is to take control of other people's bodies, not their minds, so long as they have a very simple mind. But as our team are about to be killed by Grimm, Bunker is able to create bricks from his mind, which make Grimm pass out. So back in the lab, a new costume for Kid Flash has been created that will realign all of his molecules. And I actually really do appreciate the artwork on the costume right here. You can tell how thin it is, and you can tell that it's made of a stretchy, spandexy type of texture, not leather. And that's so important for a Flash costume. They are the fastest people alive. If they wore leather, they would just be the fastest to chafe people alive. Take it from somebody who owns leather pants and leather shorts and a bunch of leather stuff. You do not run in that stuff. It is so painful. Anyway, Bart puts on the costume and he looks cool and everybody goes home. Now we're back with Superboy. He's been captured by Nowhere and he's being killed by them. But who should show up but Kid Flash? Kid Flash takes all of these lasers off of Superboy to make sure that Superboy doesn't die, and then Bunker and Skitter are also in the room as backup. And then we have a flashback to an hour ago, so we understand what the hell is going on. So Tim and Bart are testing out Bart's powers, just to make sure that Bart isn't going to die if he uses them too much. And then Danny the Street turns up and communicates that Nowhere have captured Superboy and they are going to kill him. So Bart and Tim go back to the penthouse. At first, all of the Titans are like, so why should we save Superboy again? And Tim basically says, look, I'm going to go and save Superboy because I don't want any teenage metahuman to die at the hands of some ignorant company. You can stay here if you want to, but that's not what I'm about. Tim then leaves to go through a warp door, which will take him directly to Nowhere, and this prompts Cassie to go through the same warp door, and then the rest of the Titans follow in pursuit. Then back at the fight, Kid Flash has this weird moment with his head and his thoughts, and he's having a hard time aligning his thoughts, and it's really painful. And even after reading this whole series and knowing what all that is about, I do think that was badly placed and badly timed. Then Kid Flash picks up Superboy and they're about to leave Nowhere, but then reinforcements arrive. Elsewhere in the same facility, Cassie is about to fight this guy that's made entirely out of parasites because this guy has been tracking her all around the world. Even elsewhere in the same facility, Red Robin is hacking Nowhere's computers to download their files onto his own technology so he has proof to build a case against them. And Solstice turns up, and she is not happy about Tim's actions. She believes that he should be in the fight, and then Tim tells her to go and join the fight, and she demands to not be spoken to like a child. Back at the fight with Kid Flash, Superboy uses his tactile telekinesis to take down all of the backup, which works perfectly. Then back at Wonder Girl's fight, she uses her lariat to siphon the energy out of this parasite man, thus disposing of him. Then back with Tim and Solstice, Tim explains that he needs these files. With these files, he can build a case against Nowhere and actually take a lot more action than he could have before. But this of course does mean that Tim knew exactly what was happening to Solstice and all the torture she had to go through. He knew exactly what was going on with her and he couldn't do anything about it, which makes Solstice break down crying. And then the Titans are about to leave, which is when Harvest shows up and he says that he's going to make the Titans part of the colony. And thus begins the prelude to the Culling. Now it is worth saying that the Culling does cross over into a bunch of other titles, but we will be sticking strictly to the Teen Titans. I will be making a Culling video one day in the future, a long time after this video, because I don't want to read this again anytime soon. Read it enough for this video. So the next issue begins with the Titans being shown their deepest, darkest fears to each other by this woman called Omen. It's a high-stress situation which causes the Titans to fight one another, but Solstice says to hang in there, because this is exactly what Harvest does. He turns friends against one another, so when they're in the colony, they will kill. If the Titans want to make it through this, they have to be incredibly strong and really trust in one another. Omen then finishes up with Tim, sends him packing to the next phase, and turns on Cassie. And it turns out that Cassie really does have no powers. She's got this invisible armor that drains her life and gives her powers. Elsewhere in the same facility, Tim is being prepared for something by being put in another skin-tight outfit. What's with Omen and dressing teenagers in skin-tight outfits? That's really weird. But Harvest is gloating about something, we don't really know what, but he's gloating nonetheless, which puts Tim on edge. Next, Omen has turned on Skitter and sent Cassie packing into the next phase that Tim is already in, and she's showing Skitter's deepest fears to the rest of the team, and Solstice says that's exactly what Omen does. She shows your deepest, darkest fears to all of your friends to try and break you, so by the time you're broken, you are in the colony. Then back with Wonder Girl and Tim, and Skitter is now there as well. Wonder Girl has also been put in one of those outfits, or as she calls it, like Superboy's prom date. Tim has managed to escape, but he's not really sure if he's still experiencing hallucinations from Omen or if he's really escaped, so he's going back to Omen's womb just to make sure. Back to Omen, she has turned on Bart, and Solstice and Bunker have a bit of a moment, which is really this badly written rainbow of emotions in one page, and it's very confusing. I really don't enjoy this page whatsoever. It could have been done much better. However, I will praise the art on Bunker right here. I think in high-stress situations, people do look very ugly, and Bunker is definitely showing his ugly side in that frame. I really do appreciate that. When it comes to Omen and Bart, Bart tries to warn Omen how Bart's powers have been acting very strange recently, and as Omen is going on about how there's another mind inside of Bart's mind, Bart's powers surge and cause Omen to be blinded and pass out. This allows Bart to grab Solstice and Bunker and run for an escape, but as he does so, both Bunker and Solstice are shot dead. Then Bart wakes up, and apparently those two's deaths were actually all part of Omen's hallucinations. He's perfectly okay. And then we go back to Tim, and he has made it back into Omen's womb. Tim gets a successful hit in on Omen, but then he wakes up, and apparently no one escaped, and they're all still tied to these benches. And then we see a guy called Leash, and he's taking all of the Titans into the colony. And thus begins the Teen Titans Culling, Part 1 of 4. Now it is worth saying that we cover Part 1 and the conclusion in the Teen Titans and we cover the other parts in other titles, but we're not getting into those today. Those will be saved for my culling video. This is an issue-by-issue Teen Titans, not an issue-by-issue crossovers and stuff like that. Tim wakes up somewhere called the Colony, and he is surrounded by these people called Artemis, Thunder, and Lightning. And they say to Tim that he is wearing the colors of Harvest, so they do not trust him. Tim then displays his combat techniques on Artemis and says that if he wanted them dead, they could have been dead a long time ago. Tim is told that the Colony is a place where about 100 teenage metahumans are kept before the culling. Now, the culling is an all-out battle royale between these teenage metahumans so they can become the new Ravagers. Now, it is worth saying that not all of these teenagers in the culling at the moment are metahuman. Some are human, like Tim and Artemis, and others are just regular kids that were specifically infected with a mutation by the Harvest to enter into the culling. Tim is eventually reunited with the Teen Titans, and Solstice has convinced Superboy to join the Titans so they can get out safely, because Superboy is very powerful and the Titans could really use him. Then we meet Legion Lost, and they are a time-displaced team of teenage metahumans from the 31st century, and they have looked all over for a way out, and they cannot find one. And they cannot just warp out back to their own time because someone is using 31st century technology to keep them locked in. Then Leash turns up and takes all of the Titans into the culling other than Skitter, because someone turns up and says to Skitter, "Come on, we have somewhere better to go." The Titans are then dropped in the Crucible, and they have to defend themselves against Legion Lost, but Legion Lost are also defending themselves against the Titans, which if you really think about it means there's nothing to really defend themselves from, but they keep fighting nonetheless until someone realizes that they don't need to be fighting. Then Leash goes back into the Colony, picks up the rest of the teenage metahumans, and drops them in to the Crucible. It's actually worth saying that this is the first time that we see Beast Boy in action in this run of the Teen Titans, but this is not where he joins the Titans. He joins much later on. But a giant battle breaks out. Most of the teens don't want to kill each other, but some do, and this is how Artemis dies. But Artemis dying is the catalyst to stopping all of this madness, so she had to die. Because Harvest doesn't want any of this teaming up nonsense going on in his culling, he sends in the Ravagers, and that fight is in Superboy number 9. But we're not doing that, we're moving on to Teen Titans number 9. So we're at Teen Titans number 9 now. And just to fill in a couple of blank spots where you might not know where the hell is going on, about a mile above the Crucible, Bunker and Dawnstar are taking other teenage metahumans that aren't part of Legion Lost or the Titans to escape pods. Harvest has now had to come into the Crucible because none of the teenagers were doing what he wanted. He's having to intervene, and he's very unhappy about everything. The Teen Titans and Legion Lost basically tell Harvest that they don't want to make his vision reality. They don't like his vision for the future, so they are going to end it. Then Legion Lost run off to the power core to overload it to try and destroy the Harvest's whole facility, while the Teen Titans attack Harvest to give Legion Lost enough time to make their mission successful. So the Legion begin to overload the power core, and they are successful. But then back of the Harvest, he reveals that this was his plan all along. His plan is still in action. But the Titans don't believe him. They think he is lying. He has to have lost. He doesn't have anything left. Then back at the power core, the Legion Lost are able to find a time bubble which will take them back to the 31st century. That doesn't go exactly right. You can find out about that in the Legion Lost comics. And then back with the Titans, Harvest decides to escape, but as he's escaping, it's revealed that he's actually human. And the Titans are left in the Crucible. However, Tim Drake feels like the Titans have lost this situation because Harvest was able to escape. But the rest of the Titans are like, no, he's got no more facilities, he can't attack any more children. We've won here. Then Superboy uses his abilities to wrap all of the Titans in this ball of earth so Wonder Girl and Superboy can make it fly up as high as possible so they can escape as the Crucible explodes into nothingness and everything goes white. Then what seems like an eternity passes and the Titans wake up on an island full of dinosaurs. So it's worth saying that Superboy and Cassie woke up prior to this in the previous Superboy issue, but once again, we're not getting into that. So Bart is the first one of his team awake. He has to tie up his dinosaur and take all of his teammates away from the dinosaur and wake them up so they don't get eaten. Tim starts to get really stressed and real rude towards his teammates, so Bunker turns around and takes Tim down a few pegs, which Tim actually thanks Bunker for because Tim really needed that. Shortly after this, Superboy and Wonder Girl find Tim and Bunker, and they're all really happy to see each other, like really happy. Solstice and Kid Flash get on, then Superboy and Red Robin have a bit of a heart-to-heart, a bit of a thank you, no thank you. And then Miguel is sunbathing and he's attacked by a dinosaur. When he comes up from above the water, he realizes there are regular bricks in the water as well as his own bricks. The Titans gather together all the bricks because it turns out that it's Danny the Street. Danny reveals that he has the ability to teleport one more time, and after that he's going to become a real street. He won't be Danny anymore. The Titans reluctantly agree to let Danny do so, and before they know it, they're back in Chinatown in New York, and Danny the Street has become Danny the Alley. So the issue starts off with all these spikes violently coming out of Cassie's body. By the pattern, they're clearly coming from Cassie's armor or have something to do with her armor, but in the next room over, there is a fight going on between the Titans and a guy called Loose Cannon, which causes Cassie to buck up and take part in the fight, but her armor takes control of her and defeats Loose Cannon for her. And this is obvious because Cassie mentions how she wasn't conscious for the fight. This is important because Cassie then returns and begins to attack the rest of the Titans brutally. And the only member of the Titans that is able to put up a good fight is Solstice, because Solstice's powers come from the sun and the moon, not the earth, which means Solstice has the potential to be incredibly powerful. Anyway, by the time Tim and Superboy make it back to the penthouse, Cassie is there crying, begging for someone to take the armor off of her, or at very least help her before she hurts people again. Straight away in the next issue, we see Cassie has totally lost control. The armor is all over her body now. She can't control it. She's attacking Tim. She's attacking Superboy. She almost kills Tim. But Tim and Superboy keep working together till they find a way to save Cassie, and eventually they get the armor off of her, and you can actually see the armor was spiked into her flesh. That is nasty. And I bet that was a thing somewhere in the past where they probably spiked armor into you and you were some great big warrior slave for some tribe or something. I bet that was a thing. Then who should turn up but Diesel, who takes the armor away from Cassie and puts it onto himself, claiming that it's his destiny to wear the armor and end the world. Cassie then tries to go after Diesel because Diesel and Cassie discovered the armor together. They found it together, and at first it chose him, but then Cassie took it away from him because Cassie knew that if she wasn't wearing the armor, if she wasn't the one to have it put onto her, the world would end. As much as it pains her, as much as the armor is killing her, as much as Cassie does not want to be the one that has to wear it, she has to wear it. She doesn't have a choice. Cassie then gives her backstory to Tim and Superboy. Cassie was a dig brat. Now, a dig brat, for all of you that don't know, is a child that travels around the world with their archaeologist parents, going from dig to dig with them. Cassie, however, whenever she went to a new city, would become a cat burglar for items she liked, until she was eventually almost captured by people that she stole from, and that's when she met Diesel, who saved her. Cassie and Diesel fell in lust at first sight, and they bumped all of the uglies. And time came when Cassie was about to leave town, and Diesel agreed to come with Cassie and her mother to their next dig, but Cassie's mother was not to know about Diesel. Cassie explains how she was scared that Diesel was getting bored of her. She needed to do something that would spice up the relationship a lot more, which came into action when the two eventually went to Cambodia. Cassie and Diesel snuck into a dig site, but Diesel went before Cassie, and that's where Cassie found Diesel wearing the silent armor, talking about how much it was hurting him. Cassie puts on some nearby gauntlets and the silent armor goes off of Diesel and onto Cassie instead, but straight away Diesel begs for the armor back, but as he does so, the dig site begins to collapse in on the two of them. Cassie was only able to survive this thanks to being able to get out thanks to the armor, but she thought Diesel was dead. Superboy, Tim and Cassie go to the dig site where Cassie first got the armor, and all around the dig site is the mark of Trigon, which is a demon that Cassie thinks is just a myth, but Tim says that Trigon is no myth and anything surrounding him should be taken very seriously. A giant fight breaks out between a bunch of blood warriors, Tim, Cassie and Superboy, but then Cassie is dragged down by the blood warriors and Superboy cannot pick Cassie up with his telekinesis, which means she's gone. Diesel dragged Cassie into a cave and he begins to attack her, but Cassie gives him one chance to surrender, which he doesn't take. Cassie reveals that she still has the lariat from the armor and she can still control it very well, and she commands it to stop him, and it stops him by siphoning away his life energy. And then we see Cassie outside of the cave saying that she took the armor back inside of her, although we never actually see it go inside of her, and then she straight away starts talking about secrets, which I think probably means she never actually took the armor back inside of her. The issue ends with Solstice talking to a guy in her mind who makes her human again temporarily, and this scares her. So she goes to talk to Tim about it, but Tim says, "Can this wait a few days? I've got to go on a business trip." Then in the next morning, Tim doesn't come back, but instead in his room, there is a doll with the Joker's smile, which means Tim has been captured by the Joker. And thus begins Batman: Death of the Family. Yeah, the Titans don't really play a big part in Death of the Family. Like, they're present, they team up with the Outlaws from Red Hood and the Outlaws, but it's more about Tim than anyone else. It really should have been called the Tim Titans for these two issues. I guess the important points for you to take note of is the Titans teaming up with Red Hood and the Outlaws, and then in this issue, Tim is attacked by the Joker with Jason Todd by some Joker gas that makes the both of them unconscious, and then that continues in a Batman comic. I forget which one. You actually don't see much of Death of the Family in the Teen Titans comics at all. You are really not missing anything by skipping these two comics. I'm sorry about that. We'll just go over what happens in the wake of Death of the Family. Tim really doesn't trust the Bat family anymore, which means he's a member of the Titans now more than ever. I do just want to reassure you though, there is a Death of the Family video coming very, very soon. Like, very, very soon. So this issue starts off with some kid named Quan Yi. Now Quan Yi has the ability to create plasma and turn it into floating light. Some doctor has told him that he can help Quan get rid of his powers and just be a normal person, which isn't true whatsoever because when we turn the page, we see the doctor just kills Quan quite brutally. So the Titans are riding back from Gotham to New York, and everyone's got one thing on their minds. Red Robin, we have been through so much together. Can we please now know your real name? And the answer is obviously no. Tim reveals that he wants to share his real name with everyone, he really does, but his name is not his secret to share. If he shared his name, then the identities of other heroes would also be compromised. Anyway, it's quickly revealed that Tim has moved the Titans away from LexCorp Towers and into their own Titans yacht, which is really exciting, and Tim's showing them about and they're so happy they could poop, but they've all got these weird 50s pin-up poster cartoon smiles going on, which really isn't good and it puts me off of this whole issue. Anyway, everyone goes to bed and Bart and McYule have to share a room, but they end up having a bit of a heart-to-heart because Bart cannot sleep. Bart says that sleeping is very, very hard for him because it means he has to stop, which means he has to think about the fact that he doesn't know who he is or where he's from. And McYule says that that might be a bit of an advantage. McYule points out that he has family, friends, and a boyfriend at home waiting for him, aside from the fact that the boyfriend's in a coma, but we find that out later. But because of that, he knows they're all missing him intensely, and that worries him. But there's no point constantly thinking about that negative side of things when it affects you badly. You should only really think about negative things that you can actually deal with. There's no point in thinking about things that you can't deal with. You should just live in the here and now is like the overall message of this conversation, and then two of them go to sleep. Then Tim goes outside and he and Solstice share a kiss regardless of Solstice's feelings for Bart and Bart's feelings for Solstice. And then back in Tim's room, Cassie comes in, starts talking to Tim, they flirt for a bit, and then they have a bit of the sex. Can I just say, I hate how stiff their faces look here. They look like a waxwork from Madame Tussauds. Like, it's not good. It's not good. And then we see Raven for the first time. She is spying on Tim and Cassie, maybe having something to do with Tim's actions. Hint, 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 hint. And then Raven is told that her father needs her, so she has to go to her father. And then it's revealed that Tim is spying on all of New York with the most evil, over-exaggerated grin on his face. Now this issue does focus on Tim in the beginning, but it does get to focus on the Titans as a whole, but it's still important for me to talk about. To begin with, it kind of talks about Tim and how he's coping with Damien's death and how he feels really responsible. Tim started the Teen Titans to protect teenagers and people. The adult heroes are so busy looking after the world as a whole, they don't have time to think about individuals, which was the point of Tim starting the Teen Titans, so he could protect individuals. And because he allowed Damien, his legal brother, to die, he failed. Alfred tells Tim that sometimes trusting friends is more important than keeping secrets, which is very, very true. Then at the Teen Titans yacht, Superboy turns up and asks the Titans if he can join them because he's not really been feeling himself. The Titans agree to allow Superboy to join them. Then Tim calls a meeting below deck and he reveals that all the Titans are going to Belle Rev to try and save a super-powered teenager. The Titans arrive at Belle Rev and they have to fight Amanda Waller's Suicide Squad. And it's actually a surprisingly good fight scene, although it doesn't really add to the story. I really did enjoy how it went. Then Tim goes up to Amanda Waller and he says, "Look, Amanda Waller, I know you have been spying on the Titans for weeks, and I think it's time we cut a deal that will benefit us both." Then we go back to the fight is called off, and Amanda turns around to Tim and she says that Tim may have won this battle, but he has not won the war. Then while Tim's leaving with the Titans are like, "Wait, weren't we here for some girl?" And Tim's like, "Yeah, there was no girl," which will be very awkward to deal with later. Then back in New York, we see some guy with the ability to kill people with his mind. And right as we should be very, very scared of him, who should turn up but Trigon on Earth. So Cassie, being Cassie, is very quick to her fists. She demands an explanation because obviously the Titans aren't happy about risking their life for potentially no reason. All the Titans say that attacking Tim is very unreasonable, but he does owe them an explanation, and Tim says that he doesn't owe them anything and he storms off. Then straight away after this, Cassie gets a message from her armor that Trigon is on Earth and she flies off to Trigon. Cassie swoops in, gives Trigon a punch that he actually feels, but obviously this doesn't go well because Trigon is, well, he's goddamn Trigon, and he picks up Cassie by her hair and basically says that if she knew her true lineage, she would be so much more powerful. The Titans then attack Trigon and Cassie breaks down how powerful Trigon is, what he is, and where he's from. Elsewhere, we finally get to see Beast Boy again, and he is on Death's doorstep, but then Raven turns up, and she didn't know that her father was coming to Earth, so she revives Beast Boy, and then the two of them go into the fray. Back in New York City, Trigon is displaying his power, and it's becoming very obvious that if Trigon wanted to, he could very easily kill all of the Titans. So why isn't he? And then Beast Boy and Raven turn up, and Raven commands Beast Boy to stop the Titans from laying a finger on her father. Beast Boy grows all of these tentacles out of his back and wraps around all of the Titans and Simon, the guy with the ability to say drop dead and it kills people with his mind. But then a bunch of soldiers turn up and they shoot down Solstice, but then Simon uses his abilities on the soldiers, killing all of them, and then he turns on Beast Boy and tries to make Beast Boy die, but this just cancels the two of their powers out. But then the Titans realize, because the rest of the world really don't understand what was going on, this might have been part of Trigon's plan to begin with, to make the Titans look bad. because it's Trigon's plan to strip them of honor, strip them of friendship, and then strip them of love. And this has obviously stripped them of honor. Solstice gets up and she is pissed at Simon for what he's done, so she goes to give him the hardest punch of his life, but then Simon goes to kill Solstice, which is where Kid Flash intervenes, and Superboy has to hold Kid Flash back from killing Simon, because Kid Flash isn't sure if he would kill or not at this point. Meanwhile, Cassie is interrogating Raven as to the location of Trigon, but Raven is just as confused as Cassie, and then it's revealed that Trigon has actually gone back to his own domain. Trigon is worried about Raven teaming up with the Titans because he needs his daughter to rule Earth. He's had a bunch of sons from a bunch of different domains and they were next to useless, but Raven is his only daughter, and she is the only one that was raised to feel love, compassion, and emotions, as well as having all of these demonic instincts. However, as Raven learnt more about her demonic self, she became more scared that the people of Azarath, the people that she loved, would be in danger, so she escaped to Earth, and here she outran Trigon for years. Until eventually the Phantom Stranger delivered Raven to Trigon, and Trigon was finally able to get a good hold of his daughter and mold her to how he wanted her to be. And even though a few weeks have passed in real life time, years have passed for Raven. In fact, she says what seems like an eternity passed for her while she was under Trigon's control. Back with the Titans, Cassie and Tim are interrogating Raven on everything that she knows, but Raven is not being spoken to in the way that she's used to, so she turns on Cassie, but Cassie just bops Raven on the head and this kind of knocks her out for a hot second, and Raven apologizes because she doesn't know what came over her. And then Bunker turns around and says, well, I don't know much about demons, but does it have anything to do with those guys? And Raven's brothers are revealed to be on the scene. And then we have another filler issue, which kind of annoyed me because I really enjoy the Trigon story arcs, but this entire issue is dedicated to Raven and the Titans fighting her brothers. The Titans basically split off into groups of 2 so they can take out a brother each, but Raven and Beast Boy aren't joining in the fight because Raven is scared to battle her brothers. But eventually Beast Boy points out to Raven that she knows the brothers better than anyone, so she would have a very easy time defeating them. So after 2 of the brothers have already been defeated, Raven finally decides to join the fray and rips out one of the brothers' still beating heart. And that's when Trigon decides to come back to Earth and takes control of all the superpowered members of the Titans, leaving Raven, Beast Boy, and Tim to fight Trigon alone. So Raven takes on the Titans, and Tim and Beast Boy take on Trigon, which is kind of a fair split when you consider that Raven is the daughter of Trigon, so she should have at least a fraction of his power, which is more than enough to deal with the Titans. However, it is becoming very apparent that Raven is very new to fighting outside of magical realms, and Beast Boy is kind of stupid. Raven is using her emotion-based powers to try and get through to the good half of all of the Titans, although she does admit while she can feel good in Bart, there is an evil half of him in there from a long time ago. The fight goes on for a while until Tim is finally able to take his cape off, stab it through Trigon's eyes, and this causes Trigon to promise revenge and disappear. And right as this fight ends and everyone's recovered and getting up, Bunker finally asks, so how the hell do we clean this up? And something happens that I absolutely detest. Basically, a woman comes along, we don't know her name, we don't know who she works for, but she says, you don't have to, we wiped the minds of everyone nearby that might have seen it, we're taking away Simon, we're going to clean all of this up, no TV signals got out of here, and those soldiers didn't really die, you were being manipulated by Trigon. You don't need to worry about anything. And this is safe writing 101. There's no consequences in this. And that's what the Titans is supposed to be about, consequences. They're supposed to be about how sometimes as people we're so busy feeling our emotions all the time that we don't think about the consequences of our actions. Anyway, the woman disappears with Simon from the portal from whence she came, and Miguel points out that she seems very, very familiar. Then back at the Titans' yacht, everyone is more than happy to allow Raven to join the Titans, which is very nice to read. However, as Raven is walking back to her room, she lets it slip that Tim kissed Solstice and slept with Cassie, which obviously causes very awkward and very high tensions. And as Raven is back in her room, it's finally revealed that it was Trigon's plan all along to have Raven join the Titans. The Titans all split off in their different ways because everyone's kind of mad at Tim but kind of mad at each other at the same time, and Bart just runs off to his room and takes a cheap shot at Tim round the face. Solstice knocks on Bart's door saying that she wants to talk to him, and Bart says that there's nothing to talk about. Yes, Tim was under Trigon's influence and control, but Solstice had no excuse for kissing Tim back. But then, as this conversation is going on through the door, a man appears and starts dragging Bart through this space portal looking thing and calls him Bartor. And he says it's time for Bartor to pay for his crimes. So the Titans turn up one by one and try to drag Bart back out of this portal looking thing, but it's a lot stronger than it looks, so none of their abilities are really working. So Superboy uses his powers to disrupt the portal and this works, but then over in the 30th century, the people that made the portal are talking about Bart and are saying how death is too good for him. Back at the Titans, Raven uses her powers and she senses that the portal was from another time, and because of the urgency going about, Bart has a history with these people, and Bart says that he can sense that he's done something bad, but he doesn't know what. After this, the Titans agree to just go and relax. They haven't been able to do that in quite a while, and that's what they need. Straight away, we have an interaction that I really like. Beast Boy and Bunker are getting along amazingly. They're both free spirits, so it makes sense that they get along really well. And then Bunker gets an inbox message to his phone saying he's awake and he's asking for you, which makes Bunker very happy. Superboy. Then we have a conversation between Cassie and Superboy. And Cassie basically says, look, I'm sorry that I slept with Red Robin, but you have to admit, he's a really attractive guy, and I do what I want because I'm a grown woman, and I wanted to sleep with him, and now that that's done, I don't want to do it again. And Superboy says, okay, so you're a grown woman, what do you want to do? And apparently that conversation was comforting to the two of them because they kiss in the moonlight. Then we have a quick interaction between Tim and Raven, and Tim basically says, look Raven, I saw you out on the field. If anything happens to me, the Titans are going to look to you for leadership, so you need to learn everything about the Titans. Then Solstice and Bart have a bit of a moment, and Solstice says to Bart, look, you might have done bad things in the past, but you're good now. Look at all the good that you've done recently. You've done nothing but good recently. You can't be a bad person anymore and do all of the good that you've done. And then McGuire calls everyone on deck and he reveals that he's going back to Mexico with Beast Boy to be with his boyfriend because his boyfriend is awake from a coma. And this, of course, brings the Titans back down from 8 members to 6 members. So this is issue number 24 that we're at now, and this issue is really, I wouldn't say filler issue because it does lead into the 2nd annual, but it's not exactly an important issue. It's just a direct follow-up to Teen Titans in Forever Evil number 2. Basically, the Titans are displaced in time and they're bouncing about back and forward through the time stream. Sometimes they stay in a place for a minute, sometimes they stay for a year. But a few key things do happen that actually directly affects the world history and the Titans' history. For example, it turns out to be Red Robin that told Bunker to get on that exact train cart at the beginning of the Teen Titans, which I kind of liked. But then we go to the future and Bart actually gets to talk to his past self, even though we're in the future, but it's been revealed that Bart is actually from the future. Bart's past self basically wants to kill off everyone that's in this spaceship. It's his plan to destroy this spaceship, destroy these people's lives, and be done with them. And obviously Bart of now wants to stop this, but Bart of the past, but technically the future, isn't listening to this, and before Bart, good Bart, can convince evil Bart otherwise, Bart and Solstice get dislodged in time yet again. Things come to their peak when Raven has to fight Trigon the Demon and only survives because Cassie gets dislodged in time at the exact right moment to save Raven. It is revealed that Raven was brought up inside of a limbo that exists outside of time, and because of that, Raven can directly manipulate the time stream if she tries hard enough. But the only way for this to work is for the Titans to temporarily give their souls to Raven. So the Titans hand over their souls, and this is exactly what Raven wanted, the Titan souls. So she tries to contact her father and is unable to do so because she's been bouncing around through time for so long. Then Con, Cassie and Tim are dislodged into a dystopian future, and they go to the Batcave, and the Batcave seems to have been taken over by the Joker, and Batman has been killed. But keep in mind that this is just one of many possible futures, which is why Future's End isn't exactly relevant, and in 5 years' time we're not even going to be thinking about Future's End anymore. The group explore the cave a bit, trying to find any remnants of technology that might be able to help them out, until eventually they are teleported to the Justice League satellite, where they meet Beastman, Beast Boy's future self. So in this future, Beastman is the last remaining member of the Justice League. There's no more Teen Titans, but a new team is being trained. The all-new and different Teen Titans. One of these all-new and different Teen Titans mistakes Superboy for someone else, goes to attack him, but then this boy is subdued, so Superboy goes outside, and then he gets some kind of mental communication from a person named John, so Superboy flies off to try and find John. Then Beastman and Tim have a private chat, and it turns out this whole dystopian future, this whole horrible place, is thanks to Superman's son wanting to kill off all metahumans. As for Beastman, he's only in the position that he's in right now because 18 years ago, 6 months after the Titans were dislodged in time, they returned, and they told Beast Boy that in 18 years' time, he had to be where he is now, delivering all of this information to a younger version of Tim. Then Superboy meets with this John person, and it turns out to be the son of Superman, and the two of them break out into a fight. Then back with Beastman and Red Robin is all like, I don't know if I should trust you. But then Beastman reveals that he knows Red Robin's name is Tim Drake. And knowing a Bat family member's real name is a huge sign of trust. Then Cassie sees a hologram of Tim's future self saying that Cassie will be murdered at the end of her life. Then Raven turns up and wipes Cassie's mind of this incident because it's bad for a person to know how they die, because they'll usually die sooner. Then back with Con and John, Con lodges John on a bunch of spikes sticking out of the satellite, but then Con just disappears. Then John is brought inside by Rose and is all patched up, and Beastman makes John look like Con. He did this in the hope that by sending John with the Teen Titans, he would learn to be a better person, or at very least wouldn't be around to terrorize this current timeline anymore. So all the Titans reunite together, and Raven turns around and is like, right, we gotta get back into the time stream. We either leave now or not at all. So all the Titans leave, and this marks the beginning of the end for the Teen Titans Volume 4. Now we're back with Bart and Solstice, and Bart tells Solstice to stand back because the people that they've been surrounded by wouldn't think twice about killing the two of them. And Solstice is very confused because Bart's talking as if he knows these people, which Bart says he does, which obviously gives Solstice a right to be confused. Then the battle goes a bit worse for wear because these people had actually been waiting for Bart's return. But then Solstice does her best to protect Bart. And then a mile away, Raven and the rest of the Titans arrive on the planet. Soon after arriving on the planet, they see Solstice's energy and they begin to fly towards it. And as they arrive, they see Kid Flash beating up a guy on the verge of killing him. And they are only able to just stop him. Then some soldiers turn up and the Titans have to surrender to these soldiers or die. And it turns out that these are the people that sent Bartor back in time to the Titans timeline. Bart is locked up on this ship because he's obviously done something bad that we don't know about yet. But Solstice is mad because she feels like the Titans should have done something to protect Bart. She doesn't know what, but they should have done something. Tim says they couldn't have because Raven couldn't use her powers to their full potential at that time, and Superboy badly needed medical attention. And that leaves Solstice, Tim, Cassie versus an army. It's also worth saying that Raven is noticing that she can't hear her father anymore. She's been unable to contact her father for quite some time, which means her father must be dead in the time that she's currently in. Solstice goes up to Bart's cell and attacks it and promises Bart that she will find a way to get him out. And Bart tells her not to do that because he wants to find out who he is once and for all. Then the Titans are shown a clip directly from Bart's memory, and yep, Bart was indeed very evil in his past, which is kind of scary to think about. So in this galaxy that Bart was brought up in, there is one ruling body, and this ruling body makes you follow their rules and their religion and nothing else. You cannot believe in anything other than them, otherwise they send purifiers to your home to kill you. And that's what happened to Bart's parents in front of his very eyes when he was 8. And Bart knew from that moment on that his life was never going to be fine. From a very young age, Bart had to steal and be on the streets to make sure that he and his sister could survive. And the Functionary, which is the people that Bart is currently imprisoned by, and the people that the Titans are currently with, aren't denying that this is the way things are. Until eventually Bart couldn't do it anymore. So he left his sister with a bunch of Functionary nuns who she would be safe with. This left Bart with one option. Obviously, he was too young and too small and didn't have enough training to take out all of the purifiers, so he could just join them, learn all of their secrets, and then turn them against themselves from the inside out. Then, one time, he was told to deliver cargo by the purifiers, and he crashed, and that's when his powers of super speed kicked in. And this was the one step that he needed to take down the purifiers. Bart created an armada against the government that had tortured his family and his friends for so long, and Bart was going to turn everything around, until eventually his sister joined up on the side of the government, and one day she was killed in battle. Bart handed himself in, marking himself as a traitor not only to his own armada, but to the government as well. So he was put into the 21st century under the Witness Protection Program while a case was built up against him. But Bart believes that he's changed. He genuinely believes that he's changed, and he just wants the Titans to see that. So this issue starts out with a bit of a heart-to-heart between Solstice and Tim. Solstice is talking about when she was in the culling the first time, it was either kill or be killed, keeping in mind that she's been in the culling 3 times. But she admits that kill or be killed is still a choice situation. And while in Bart's eyes it was kill or be killed, so you kill, you don't have any choice, that is still the selfish option. You could choose to die. And then we go to Cassie, and she's angry at Bart for not being the person she thought he was. Yeah, can I just say this is some really, I won't say bad, but weird writing. The way the Titans are acting, it's like, you killed people because you hoped for a better future? You suck! I mean, that really is safe writing 101, because it would be much more shocking to read teenagers understanding why Bart killed across the board. No one would expect that coming, that wouldn't be safe. So the Titans all come together, and keep in mind that John is still pretending to be Con, but Superboy says, why don't we just break Bart out? Wouldn't that make more sense? But Tim says no, because in this timeline we do have to respect these people's way of life and their laws, which I think is a bit of a answer. And then the trial begins, so the Titans are taken to the trial, and there is a line that's said here that I love so much. Wonder Girl says, I can smell the money and power in this place. And Raven says, indeed, this place radiates corruption. And that's so true. Money and power equals corrupt people in abundance. And then the trial begins, and Bart is asked to make a statement on how he pleads and why he did what he did. Bart explains that he didn't do what he did to get revenge for his parents or anyone in particular. He wasn't interested in revenge. It was all about freedom. To fight for freedom. People deserve better. Human beings deserve to be free. Human beings need to be free. It's in our nature. And in this current regime, nobody is free. So if they're asking him if he did what he did to fight for freedom, then he pleads guilty as hell. Heads up, that's a mirror of our own society. Ever wonder why you can't do a single thing without doing like 20 pages of paperwork? You can't even leave a country without having paperwork these days. Nobody is free. Our governments want to know every single thing about us, and it's not fair and it's not right. That's not what being human is all about. Then an explosion breaks out, and it turns out that Bart has had all of this in planning for months. He knew that this explosion was going to break out, and the Titans tell him that, Bart, you can't be attacking these people, and Bart says that he's going to slaughter the most powerful people in the galaxy all in one place. And the Titans say they're going to stop him, and Bart commands his rebellion to attack the Titans. A giant fight breaks out, it's madness everywhere, but then Bart attacks Cassie, and he is about to kill Cassie, but Solstice stops him before he is able to do this. Solstice tells Bart he doesn't need to do things like this, there's always a way without violence, and Bart doesn't believe that, so he goes to kill Solstice, but Solstice stops him. And she can do this because Solstice is pure light energy. She can move faster than the speed of light because she is light. She commands the speed of light. Then we go over to Tim Drake, and he's having a hard time in this fight because he wants to protect Bart, because when he looks at him, he still sees Bart Allen, that funny little kid that randomly turned up months ago. But in reality, Bart Allen was never real. Bartor is the fact. Bart Allen is the dream. Then Bart and Superboy have a giant fight, and it looks like Superboy's going to win, but then out of nowhere, a giant ship turns up, and just like that, the rebellion and the fight is ended. And then out of the ship walks Bart's sister, not dead. Anyway, Bart's sister is turned as cold as ice. She's full on brainwashed by the government, saying her parents died for nothing. But what she does say that I like is that Bart's parents would have never wanted Bart to become a killer, because in their beliefs, which she also says are wrong, they believed that in peace, they believed in something better than fighting. Bart then goes to finish his trial, and he is told that his punishment would not come with any mercy. But then Solstice steps in and says that she wants to be locked away or sent where Bart is going. And she's told that she can't have that because she's not committed any crimes. So she kills one of the judges. We cut to Bart and Solstice sharing a moment, and Solstice says that when she had to go through those cullings, she had to kill a lot of people. And a part of her died on the inside every time she had to kill someone. And that was revived when Bart saved her. To live in a world without Bart is to kill off that part of herself again. And she doesn't want that for herself. She wants to be with Bart forever, regardless of whatever it means for her life. Then Red Robin walks in and thanks Bart for everything and tells him that he's a good friend, no matter what. Bart is a good friend, and then walks away. It's then revealed that Superboy has decided to stay in this time, so the Titans now consist of Raven, Tim, and Cassie. And just before the Titans leave back to their own time, Tim and Cassie share a kiss. Then when they're sent back to their own time, they arrive on the Titans' yacht, and there are two guys there calling themselves the Light who want Solstice. In this fight, Raven realizes that her father no longer has any control over her, so her powers are now her own, making her even more powerful. Then out of nowhere, one of the guys that call themselves the Light begin to fade, and everyone's like, what the hell's going on? But it turns out to be Skitter. She's back. Then the woman from issue number 22 turns up to take away the two Light brothers, but it turns out that this woman is actually Skitter's mother. The woman and Red Robin kind of share a moment, and they basically say they don't agree with each other's tactics, but they will give each other the benefit of the doubt. And then she asks Skitter to come with her, and Skitter says no, because she's staying with the Titans. It turns out that Skitter actually got her powers from an accident when she was working at Star Labs, an accident that she actually caused upon herself. And then in the culling, her mother was able to reach out to her and take her away and take advantage of all the chaos that was going on in the culling. Then Grimm turns up again, and it turns out he has planted a bomb somewhere, but Beast Boy knocks him out before they can find out where the bomb is, and it turns out the bomb is below deck, so Bunker has to protect everyone using his bricks. Then we go to the planet where Bart and Solstice were sent for their punishment, and they're doing their best to survive, and they promise to each other that they are going to turn that planet around, because they are Titans no matter where they go. So we have a flash forward to 8 hours from now, and all the Titans have been taken down by somebody we don't know who, and Red Robin is the last one standing, and we know he's not going to go down without a good fight. And then we go back to the proper time. So we see Tim, he's on the pier looking at the remains of the Titan's yacht, feeling a bit sorry for himself. And then Cassie goes up to him to try and make him feel better, because Cassie was the first member of the Titans that Tim encountered. If anyone can make him feel better, it's her. Then we see Skitter swimming up from the wreckage of the yacht, and she passes Tim something, and this something makes Tim very, very nervous. Skip forward an hour from now into Chinatown, and we see Bunker and Raven, and it turns out that Raven is actually leaving. Miguel says to Raven, "You know, it was very obvious right from the start that your father planted you in our group, but you've clearly moved on past that, so please don't leave." And Raven agrees to stay. The Titans then have a meeting, and it turns out that Harvest is back, he's in Africa, and he made the Titans totally aware of his return. So the Titans decide to go to Africa to see Harvest. So they go into the kitchen of this restaurant that they're in, and then into a back alley, and it turns out that Danny the Street is alive. He's all well, and he can take the Titans to Africa. So the Titans get to the colony, and it turns out everything is very, very different now. First off, everyone's happy, and second off, a number of friends who the Titans believe to be dead are now alive. Tim is invited to have a meeting with Harvest on his own. It turns out that Harvest is just a frail old man now that you can totally trust because he's frail and old. So Tim goes back to the Titans, and he tells the Titans that Harvest has found a way to take the meta gene out of metahumans and give them a normal life if they want it. Obviously, none of the Titans trust Harvest. They all think that he's up to something or lying through his teeth, especially Beast Boy, because Beast Boy says that out of the Titans at the moment, he was with Harvest for the longest. And he says pure evil like Harvest does not change. Then Raven senses something, and she teleports all of the Titans down below, and here they find a giant strand composed entirely of metahuman DNA. The DNA then attacks all of the Titans, and then Harvest turns up and offers Tim a position working with Harvest to control all the meta DNA in the world. And obviously Tim doesn't accept this because Tim has no interest in controlling metahuman DNA. He just wants to make the world a safer place for metahuman teenagers. Tim tells Harvest that Harvest has no right to call himself a human anymore. He gave up that right the moment he started targeting children, which is so true. If you target children in anything with bad values or bad morals, then you're evil and you don't have the right to call yourself human anymore. Harvest then goes to attack Tim, but then Bunker wedges a bunch of his psychic bricks in between Harvest and his armor, thus separating him from his life support system. So Harvest says that he needs to inject the metahuman DNA into himself, but Raven is already destroying the DNA with her soul self. Then an explosion goes off, destroying the colony, thus giving all the ex-metahuman teens true freedom away from Harvest. Elsewhere in the universe, Superboy has been reborn as the Herald of Oracle. He misses his friends a lot, but he doesn't miss being Superboy. But he still watches over all of his friends. Raven and Cassie have started living together, although Cassie still likes to steal from museums from time to time because she still has her obsession with artifacts. Bunker and Beast Boy have gone on to do bigger and better tasks for themselves, and Kid Flash and Solstice are surviving on the planet that they're trapped on, and Skitter has gone back to working at Star Labs. And as for Tim, he's gone back to his element, the streets of Gotham City. But the important part for all of this, the important part that everyone should take note of, is that for one small blip in time, for one very short moment, all of them, and I mean all of them, were the Titans. If you watched this whole thing, first off, thank you. Second off, holy crap, you watched this whole thing. Like I said, you should definitely pick up these comics for yourself. You might have a very different experience if you read them for yourself. You'll definitely pick up different messages from what I gave to you in the comics. So it's so important to read comics for that, but also you should support the comic book industry anyway if you watch my kind of videos. Okay, so on to the giveaway. You all knew that was a giveaway because of the title. So to enter this giveaway, you need to leave a comment down below, be subscribed to this channel, and like me on Facebook. I will be messaging the winners directly, and I will be asking for your Facebook name. So you will need to give me that after I, send you the message. So the prizes for the giveaway, there's actually 3 levels of prizes. There is our first prize that includes the first 3 trade paperbacks of this run of the Teen Titans, which is very exciting. Our second prize includes the first 2 trade paperbacks of this run of the Teen Titans. And our third prize is the first trade paperback of this run on the Teen Titans. Trades are a great way to start reading comics. They're definitely a good way to get a whole bunch of issues at once. They're a good way to catch up. So, even if you don't win this and you want to read all these Teen Titans comics and you don't feel like getting all the monthly issues, get the trades. They're great. I'm not a trade paperback reader myself, but I still get them because they come with a bunch of concept art and stuff in the back. I don't know if you can really see it, but I like concept art and looking at how characters were originally going to look. So that's very interesting to me. Again, thank you to all the people on my Patreon that make this video possible. I would not have been able to do this without you. Thank you so, so much. I've been sat here filming for so long and now I've got to go and edit it. I don't have any time to rest, but thank you all so much. I want to make so many more videos like this. So for all of you that ever donate to my Patreon, this type of video is all thanks to you. If any of you support my Patreon, know that you're not supporting me being able to get food or stuff like that. I spend my personal money on that. You're just supporting me being able to create a bigger and better show. It's super effective! Okay guys, that is it for today. So what was your opinion on this run of the Teen Titans? Please let me know in the comments down below. And also don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more issue by issue reviews. And also don't forget to like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, support the show by checking out my Patreon, and subscribe to my gaming channel. My name is Faust, this has been Exploring Comics, and it is super effective.